Welcome back, everyone. We hope you had a fantastic time at the market and were able to connect with a lot of inspiring ideas and inspiring people. For now, I would like to give the floor to Shahad, who will introduce our keynote.
Yes. I'd like to move to the next part and introduce Christian Felber. As we said before, Christian is a writer, lecturer, and contemporary dancer. And he is initiator of the Economy of the Common Good movement and the Austrian project Bank of the Common Good. And he will tell us all about it. So please give him a big hand of applause.
Thank you. Yeah, hello everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me to contribute to this event, to this holistic event, to this post-anthropocentric event. Sjert posed the question in his slides if humans have the capacity to take a post-anthropocentric worldview and internal attitude. And I think that's one of the necessary steps to overcome what we have created so far. And I recently participated in the first WEF, alternative WEF in Switzerland, you know, the World Ethics Forum. And not so many people as in Davos gathered in Pontresina, but we gathered, and really from all over the globe. And we agreed in a first step on a new ethos, which is post-anthropocentric, post-colonial, and post-patriarchal. That was one hopeful a sign of hope. And we try to contribute that humans become really sapiens, of course, because can we call a species sapiens that is the only species that is destroying its own foundations of life? I think that's not an adequate terminology. Maybe we will arrive there one day. And I think only if we take a post-anthropocentric worldview and internal attitude, we have the opportunity to be one day sapiens. Said that, I pick up another question: what is unsustainable at the moment? And I would say one of the major elements or trends or behaviors or patterns or paradigms that are unsustainable at the moment is that if you ask traditional graduates from economic studies or business schools what is the goal of the economy, they would not say it's the 17 SDGs. Maybe except the 8. What would they say? Mm-hmm. See, it's a totally different answer, totally different. If you ask business people from the global economy, what's the purpose of your company, first and foremost? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, the goals of these economists and business people, they don't match with the society's goals. And as a consequence, we create a holistic landscape of crisis. It's not one crisis, it's so many crises that I don't even dive into these crises. But I ask, where are these economic models that match with our society's goals, that match with deep sustainability and solidarity and justice and democracy and humanity and the greater common good? Here they are. And it's just a short list, but they all agree upon the slogan tapas instead of Tina. You know Tina, there is an alternative. Tapas, there are plenty of alternatives. And the list is, of course, longer. And the one I have the honor to present now, the Economy for the Common Good, is just one of many alternatives. We try to offer a holistic alternative, which means different things. One meaning of holistic is that we do offer a complete and consistent theory of change, a narrative, a model consisting of 20 cornerstones. But at the same time, we started as a movement with companies, with individuals, of course, with politicians, with scientists, with humans from all walks of life. And we have created some 200 local chapters so far. The Dutch chapter is with a stand outside. I just learned, so you can visit. Here you are. We can visit them in the next break. And last but not least, we already talked about the decline of democracy, which is just one of the many crises. And I like to combine the theoretical analysis, which is the hypothesis of post-democracy of Colin Crouch, and the empirical data, which come from VUDEM, Varieties of Democracy, of University of Gothenburg. And they have 4 classes of states, which liberal democracies is the best class, electoral democracy is the second best, electoral autocracy is the second worst, and the worst is a closed autocracy. And since 2010, we lost 10 out of 40 liberal democracies. This is a mega trend. It's a long-term mega trend. And and I think we should do deep and complex analysis why that. Austria was downgraded from a liberal democracy to electoral democracy this year. So I'm deeply affected. And as an alternative, we offer a better, a deeper, a stronger, a more participatory, and more direct democracy, which we call sovereign democracy. Why sovereign democracy? I'm a linguist, first and foremost. I'm not an economist, by the way. I'll tell you in a second. Because sovereign means literally to stand above all, and it refers to the highest instance in any state form. In a monarchy, the sovereign instance is the king or the queen, as we have just recently been reminded of. But in a democracy, the funeral of a 96-year-old woman, she was called the sovereign of Great Britain, which for a Democrat is quite surprising. In a democracy, the sovereign instance are the people and no one else. But it just means, and it clarifies who is actually the highest instance in a liberal democracy, and accordingly, what would be the consequence? And the consequences would be that we could do a lot more things than we are able to do today. But this is the last part of my talk, and I would like to start the talk with a couple of basic questions, which I would love to be clarified at the beginning of any study of economics, no matter if it's business administration, economics, or management, or trade. And, well, interestingly, the proper term economy is not always cleanly defined. What is defined immediately is markets, but not economy. We already heard an answer. It's about the satisfaction of basic need of humans, no matter if they are satisfied on markets or in commons, in households, or with public services and goods, for instance. And we would add, in coherence with existing fundamental democratic values, which we already enumerated, from solidarity to sustainability to democracy, and of course within the ecological boundaries of the planet. Then we should be clear about the goal of economic activities. Maybe that's our main contribution, and offer consistent metrics to measure the achievement of these democratically agreed goals. And ideally, we would define these goals in a participatory democratic process. These are some proposals of our movement, and from there we start to look at the economy, to locate it in the broader picture, in the bigger picture. I already mentioned that I did not study economics, not because I'm not interested in economics. I'm deeply interested in economics, but in its broader context. And that's why I would have loved to study universal sciences, actually, and economics as one facet of the universal study or universal sciences, but that was not possible at Austrian universities at that time when I had to take that decision. And the university is an interesting institution which bears in its name the word universe. And universe comes from unum and versum in Latin and means literally one single verse, or there is only one science, the universal science. And of course, you can fragment this single science into disciplines, but you should always remain aware of the origin. And even if you specialize in a scientific branch, as we use the word, the branches should be aware of which is the bigger branch and which is the tree, the trunk of the tree, and which is the whole tree of the universal science. And only then it makes sense to go into details if you remain connected to the whole. And then if a banker, for instance, is also at least a little bit of a philosopher and an ethicist and an ecologist and a gender expert and a political scientist and a psychologist and a sociologist, maybe a neurobiologist, then I'm sure this person is not able to do that much harm that she or he is able to do today if she or he is only specialized on finance. So some of the questions are, is the economy something isolated, or is it connected, embedded in broader and superordinated contexts, such as the democratic society or the cultural context with its long-standing values, and of course, planetary ecosystems. Just one example, the former German chancellor said literally, we need a market-conform democracy. What do we need? A market-conform, if something is conform with something else, that one that is conform is subordinated, and that with which it is conform is subordinate. So in a market-conform democracy, democracy is subordinated to markets, isn't it? What would be the alternative? The other way around, of course, a democracy-conform market. This is a democracy-conform market. And only if you pose this fundamental question, you can decide intelligently. I don't give you the answer. I ask you to think about it. If that was a good saying from that former federal chancellor of Germany. And to make a long story short, after having dedicated the necessary and worthy time to all these fundamental questions, we come to the conclusion at the end that the overarching goal of all economic activities should be the common good. Of course, that's a normative approach, but economics is essentially a moral science. You know who said that? It was John Maynard Keynes. Economics is essentially a moral science. And we will find a strong reason for that. Not all economists agree on that, but Keynes said that literally. Of course, you can have a different normative approach, which is the approach that economic activities are all about money. It's the economy stupid means that economy is about money stupids, and that the accumulation of capital is the goal of economic activities. But it's just a different normativity. This is not value-free. It's just a different value system. And if we remember some famous historians, but it's this choice is not taught everywhere. Sometimes economic education is just offering one option. A scientifically serious textbook would say the theory of enterprise says that an enterprise can be an organization which is trying to maximize financial profit, or it can be an organization which is trying to contribute to the common good as much as it can. And maybe there's a third option and a fourth option. These are the choices. Now, please choose. It's up to you to choose. But sometimes they only give one choice, and then this is where there is no alternative comes from. It's not coming from politics, actually. It's coming from quasi-natural science of neoclassical economics, I would dare to say. Instead of being historical and memorizing what already has been said, because Aristotle already differentiated these two alternative options. He did not say there is only one and the other one doesn't exist. He said there is one which I favor and there is another one which I don't like so much. And the first one is oikonomia, which by his definition is an economy for the common good. Because, and now it's interesting, the rules in a household, the nomoi, should for the house, for the oikos, should be made in a way that a specific goal is achieved, and the specific goal is the well-being of all household members or the greater good, is a normative goal. But these rules are moral rules made by humans. That's extremely important, and this is even the etymological proof that economics is a social science and not a natural science. If it was a natural science, then it would have to be named ecology, because logos are the natural laws. Ecology is already occupied by a different, but that would be then economics as a natural science. And then Aristotle was quite precise and repetitive in emphasizing that the common good is the goal, and money, capital, and any material good is just the means. And we should have that clearly in mind. And if this relationship flips upside down, if money or any material good becomes the purpose of our strivings in the economy or even in arts, then it's not even economy anymore. It's not even economy anymore. It's turning the economy into its opposite, into grammatistike. Spoken as a dancer, this would be grammatistike. It's an option. You can choose to live like that. But it's something different from a pure oikonomia, just to get things clear. And Aristotle was not exotic. If we read more and deeper and thicker books, then we discover that actually considering the common good as the overarching goal of economic activities was not only for centuries the rule, but for millennia. That's important just to know. We can think differently today. We can choose differently today. But we should know and remember that for thousands of years, people thought differently, even in our culture. Yeah, I will not quote Adam Smith now, because I want to come back to the present. And now, very important detail, what do constitutions say, apart from economics textbooks? They say that, well, does the Bavarian Constitution say economic activity in its entirety serves the accumulation of capital? Then it would legitimate grammatistike, or capitalism. But it doesn't. It legitimizes and justifies oikonomia very clearly. And oikonomia is the economy for the common good. And there is no exception from that rule. Not all constitutions are that explicit and that clear. But there is no single constitution that enshrines capitalism in its text. If constitutions say something about the role of capital, then they say very clearly, it's a means. Surprise, it's a means. And here is our main analytical contribution, accepting the proposal that success should always and everywhere be measured alongside the achievement of the goals, first and foremost, and not alongside the means. We propose that this habit, that custom to measure success, is methodologically spoken not correct, because we are not measuring the achievement of the goal. We're measuring the availability or maybe even the accumulation of means. It's not correct in methodological ways. If we agree that the overarching goal is the common good, and that's what our constitutions say, what is relevant at the end of the day? What economics textbooks say or what constitutions say? We could clarify it. Yeah, we could clarify it and ask the citizens. And we have one prominent hint in that field, which is a representative survey of the German government in the recent years. They asked the population, do you want to continue with GDP, ceteris paribus, if all conditions are equal, or would you prefer to replace GDP as the highest benchmark of economic policy by something like a gross national happiness, for instance? And the answer of the survey, which was deemed as representative by the German government, was that 18% of the Germans voted for the continuation with GDP. 18%, whereas 67% of the surveyed people prefer to replace GDP by something like gross national happiness or a combination of SDGs. But now comes, well, politics, yes. And now, and who? Who defines what is the common good is the next question. The Queen, the Parliament, the government, the federal president, the prime minister. I would say the sovereign instance, because it's one of the most basic questions that we have to decide upon, and the more fundamental a question, the stronger the case for letting it decide the sovereign instance. And just to remember briefly again, who is the sovereign instance in a democracy? It's the people. And this is our proposal. So if we want to scale up one prototype that works at the local level in Amsterdam or any other community, at the regional level, at the national level, at the European level, and maybe at the international level, higher, then we propose to call for, you can call them citizen assemblies, you can call them economic conventions, you can call them differently, for participatory processes in which the citizens define together or compose the common good product, because it will consist of, let's say, 20 sub-goals, very similar to the SDGs, but created bottom-up. And I make the exercise. If you are this economic convention or assembly, and think about or feel inside, which is one of the components of these, of these 20 facets common good product, which you don't want to miss at all, which is most essential for you to be part of the greater good, the life, a good life for everybody. Which element, which component would you like to have been included?
Gardens.
Sorry?
Gardens.
Gardens. Gardens, like green gardens. Gardens is one proposal, more proposals.
Healthy food.
Healthy food. Very similar to organic gardens. More proposals, please.
Planetary boundaries.
Planetary boundaries, thank you. And
I said mobility.
mobility, and social inclusion, and freedom, peace, access to water, to drinkable water, I guess. Yeah, healthy water. Yeah. Can we agree on drinkable rivers? No, it's free energy. Hey. Free time, yeah. Time welfare, we can call it. And maybe one more. Animal welfare. Great. Okay, so we have heard 10, 12 proposals. Did anybody mention money? See, it's not that important for us. If we look at what really matters, nobody thinks about money or capital. Is never, ever mentioned nowhere in the world, neither in Europe nor in any other region or culture. Usually what is among the finalists is health and happiness and flourishing relationships and social cohesion and just distribution and stable ecosystems, including gardens and drinkable rivers and political participation and fundamental rights and freedoms and peace. Just to name a few examples, huh? More or less these. And only if none of these sub-goals goes down, only then the common good product rises. So if the common good product rises, we have 100% guarantee that in this year, sorry, I jumped over one step. Having defined the goals, we need to operationalize them. That's necessary. That in order that we can measure the progress from year to year, and if we want to, we could compare between country and country. We could keep it simple, maybe 2, 3, or maximum 5 indicators, measurable indicators per sub-goal. Just one example, health was usually measured with life expectancy. In recent years, public health experts prefer to use healthy years of living, just to touch one indicator discussion. But healthy years of living you can measure, and this is an indicator. And then if the common good product grows, then we have 100% guarantee that in this year we are either healthier than last year, or happier, or more solidary, or more democratic, or more sustainable, or more peaceful, or we have a juster distribution and a lower degree of inequality. Just to name some examples. Whereas if GDP grows, do we have full certainty that any of these qualities has improved? No, we don't. And even in the worst case, it's possible that GDP keeps growing and all of these qualities deteriorate. And this is methodologically quite doubtful, isn't it? And it's not if we consider GDP as a success measurement of a capitalistic society. But the question is, do we want to be a capitalistic society? And constitutions have already given the answers. No, we don't want to be a capitalistic, we want to be an economic society. But for that reason, we have to distinguish between economics and capitalistic sciences, or oikonomia and Grammatistike. Well, and once we have that beautifully composed common good product for Amsterdam, for the Netherlands, for the European Union, we could just easily derive the common good balance sheet for companies on the meso level, asking every organization, no matter if it's a university, it's a company, if it's the city of Amsterdam or the church, what's your contribution to these 20 democratically defined goals? And only because we haven't enjoyed this process, yes, this is our provisional proposal, how companies and other organizations can answer these questions. Our common good is provisionally defined by the combination of all fundamental democratic and constitutional values. Human dignity plus solidarity plus social justice plus sustainability plus democratic participation and transparency. And the question is, how consequently, how authentically do you live these values according to all your stakeholders? A scorecard was not invented by us. And in the fields of intersection, in the interfaces, we try to pose the most fundamental ethical questions, the most relevant ethical questions. It's about ethics. Ethics is the fundament of economics. It was with Adam Smith like this, and it should be today again like that. And there was a student of 11 years in Barcelona who made a perfect summary of the common good balance sheet. She said, Christian, what you are talking about is actually the future of tomorrow, that the students, or the children of, I'm a child, the children of today are desiring for tomorrow. Just to get, to assure if I got you right, I understood that the common good balance sheet measures how meaningful that product is. Meaningful in the meaning, how much does it contribute to the satisfaction of basic human needs? That's the definition of economy, if we agree on that definition, of course. What's the ecological footprint? What's the impact on biodiversity, global climate, and all other ecosystems? How humane are working conditions, not only in this company, but in the whole supply chain from the beginning and the raw materials? Who takes the decisions? And how are the benefits distributed to all persons involved in the process? Cheers for the common good. And I said, Victoria, that's the best summary I've ever heard. And with your permission, I will use it as an elevator pitch in my public appearances, which I'm doing since almost 10 years. And then I can avoid to explain what is behind this surface. Behind this surface in the full version are 150 pages, and in the slim version, 70 pages. Of these are 20-ish common good issues, and one issue is then spread up to 5 aspects, because humane working conditions, that's the broadest possible approach, and then we focus on safety and health. We focus on experience of meaning. We focus on time flexibility and time management, on participation and co-determination, and on diversity. These are 5 focuses. This is the maximum per. And then in every aspect, you can escalate 5 steps. And what differs our instrument from all other instruments, you can also achieve negative aspects. If you, for instance, transfer profits to tax havens, you lose many, many points. Or if you profit from human rights violations in the supply chain, you lose many, many points. Or if you lobby behind the curtains and are not registered in the European Lobby Register, just for instance, you lose a lot of points. And now a jump. Probably you all know that Common Good Balance Sheet is not the only sustainability reporting framework which is on stage. So I jump very wide in the future. One day, we are fully sure that there will be just one set of remaining international sustainability reporting standards. Although we prefer to call them an ethical reporting instrument for companies. But my point now is, please, the movements, no matter if it's Fridays for Future or any other movement or the Green Offices movement, please let's engage transparently in a political struggle for the best possible standards, first on the European level, which are just now created, and later on the international level, because this is a highly political issue, but they are being created totally behind closed doors and curtains. And then we could include, which is our proposal, 3 things. First, these sustainability reports or common good balance sheets, they are made in a way that the external audit leads to a quantitative score. And the quantitative score is made visible on every product, and not only on the front door and the website. And in the first step, consumers and investors and all market actors have more complete information for their only then a little bit more rational choices, just to link to neoclassical language. But much more importantly, today the companies that are more responsible and more sustainable and do more for the climate and for social cohesion and for gender equality, they used to have higher costs and they used to have higher market prices, and that's why they today have usually a competitive disadvantage. And other companies that behave less ethically, they have a competitive advantage. And this is perverted, and we would like to correct it, linking high scores to positive incentives and lower scores to negative incentives. And here comes another good message. All these incentives already exist. So we could start with public procurement of the city of Amsterdam and economic promotion. There are many, many programs. We could go over taxes. We could go over finance. The bank asks, first, what is the impact of that investment for which you're asking a loan on the climate, on biodiversity, on distribution, on gender? And only if no common good is damaged and no fundamental value is neglected, only then the financial risk assessment is done in a second step, and if both are passed, the money flows as a means into a fully sustainable development, and the loan conditions are the more favorable, the higher the contribution to the democratically defined common good. Okay, so it's still this. I admit we focus on markets, although we don't champion markets. Markets are just one stage of the economy. But our main contribution is to transform capitalistic markets into ethical markets. We want to overcome capitalism, but not necessarily discharge markets. And maybe that is an interesting element. We would like to create cooperative markets. And this is probably not easy to understand and to imagine for people who think that competition, literally correctly spoken, counterpetition, is a constitutive characteristic of markets. Well, cooperative markets would incentivize strongly negatively behaviors that go aggressively against the others. It would incentivize softly negatively behaviors that are just ignorant of others. It would incentivize softly positively behaviors that are occasionally cooperative or solitary, and it would incentivize strongly positively behaviors that are systemically cooperative and solidary. And we will find good examples for these qualifications. And maybe in this chart, it's just another way to look at it. We want to detach from capitalism, we want to overcome capitalism, but we don't want to fall into socialism, on the other hand. We do not discharge private property, we do not discharge collective property, but we propose both limits to every type of property and also conditions for every type of property. And one limit to private property could be no person can own more than this amount of private property, and no company can be bigger than this size. And every company has to do a common good balance sheet as a prerequisite to participate in ethical markets. Just one example. And that's why our diversity approach to property includes commons in the same way as it includes private property. But we would like to have commons enshrined in the same prominence in constitutions as we have enshrined and protected private property. Someone said, only when we have achieved likewise strict protection of common property or the commons, then as we already have achieved with private property, then a solution is ahead. So there are 20 cornerstones, and I'm just mentioning two more very briefly. One is because it attaches perfectly to the conservation approach to biodiversity, is the idea of ecological human rights. Ecological human rights is a coin with two sides, and the forefront of the coin are protection rights of Mother Nature. So it would become international law that the planet is a legal subject and has a protection right. And as a consequence on the backside, humans, as one of many million species, have a limited individual consumption right of ecological resources. But if all humans use up their full consumption rights, planetary ecosystems will stay stable. So we would stay as mankind as a whole within the planetary boundaries. That's the idea. It's building on the donut of Kate Raworth, and you know that the donut is building on the concept of planet Earth. So it's a third floor on this concept story. And the last one, on the international level, we propose ethical world trade as an alternative to the equally nonsensical extremes free trade and protectionism. The only difference is that protectionism is such an ugly word that no one wants to be a protectionist. And whereas free trade is such a beautiful word that everybody is for free trade. But if you look at it, it's equally nonsensical because it doesn't make any sense to increase trade as an end in and of itself. Same as it doesn't make any sense at all to consider trade as a bad thing. We propose to consider trade as a means like money, and if it contributes and helps to achieve our goals, we promote it, and as soon as it puts at risk or endangers the achievement of our goals, we restrict it and have not the least problem with restricting it, and don't consider ourselves and don't call ourselves protectionists, which is just a misnomer and a misleading term. There's a broader concept behind, but now it's not the moment to dive deeper. Now it's the moment to show some pictures, to present the movement. I already talked about the 200 local chapters. The strongest country at the moment is Germany, with 100 of the 200 local chapters, although the movement started in Austria. And we welcome companies from all branches, from organic farms and solidarity, agricultural corporations, to bakers, of course. Maybe one story from that baker. This baker did not pay obedience to the law of supply and demand. What they did is they collected the supply chain as a chain of appreciation of all stakeholders, and they invited the corn farmers from the surroundings of Berlin. They invited the habitual customers, they invited the employees of the bakery and everyone else. And then when everybody was sitting at the table, there was a moment of silence. And then the bakers asked the farmers, which price do you need this year in order to have a good life? And after another moment of silence, the farmers name a price. And since 25 years, this price is paid without negotiation, and it works for everybody. Yeah, there are more and more medium-sized companies, although we started with mostly tiny and small companies, but now more and more. This is an outdoor company, most sustainable company in Germany. This is the Cooperative for the Common Good in Vienna. We did not get the bank license, so we are not a bank, we are cooperative, but we have 4,500 cooperatives. And we created, in cooperation with a bank, the first common good current account in Austria, which is now 1,000-fold on the market. And we have the 100% guarantee that every euro that is on a common good current or savings account is invested 100% sustainably. So it's not only a fund without arms or without nuclear power, no, it's 100%, so it's full organic agriculture or renewable energy or social housing or sustainable mobility. We would have to define the concept mobility for that. Yes, and this is a public company, just to show the broadness of the movement. It's a health insurer, and this health insurer from Bavaria got at the second last COP24 in Poland a climate protection prize for achieving that the clients of that health insurer consume less and less meat. Either meatless Mondays or Tuesdays or Wednesdays or Thursdays, but not with enforcement, not with incentives, but with strong arguments, with conviction. Yes, and I also could now enlarge the prototype story, but I just, don't worry, I just mentioned them. I just mentioned that more and more municipalities are joining now, and also universities. This is the first public university. It's a technical university in Germany that has done a common good balance sheet. So common good balance sheet is not only for companies of Nuremberg. And there has been created a first chair, Economy for the Common Good, at the University of Valencia, where we celebrated our second scientific conference. So I heard that there is a restructuring ongoing on the VU as for the economics department, which is a very joyful message. And the idea is that maybe the green offices, but we can talk that on the sofa. Yeah, and not to forget, Amsterdam Impact is already promoting B Corps and common good balanced companies next to a different department from Amsterdam, which is doing the circular economy program with the donut economics approach. So Amsterdam is quite in the forefront of cities that at least partly implement some of these tapas, of these plenty alternatives. And of course, the next step is now, it's all about politics. I'm a political scientist. I fully agree that it's all about politics. And although we got a strong backwind from the European Economic and Social Committee, which is not a legislative body of the European Union, but at least it can issue opinions. And one of the opinions it issued on its own initiative was about ECG. It's a 10-pager, and then they put it to voting in the plenary session, and the result was that 86% of its members voted in favor of the inclusion of ECG in the legal framework of the European Union and its member states, being Netherlands or Austria. And of course, this hasn't happened. and so I'm confident on the one hand that we will achieve something, and on the other hand, I'm a political analyst, and I see the decline of democracies, and that's why I make a case for stronger democracies. And I have already explained what I mean by sovereign democracy, because I learned that also Putin calls his understanding of democracy, of state, of governance, sovereign democracy. For me, he's an autocrat. There is no democracy at all in this country. So don't be confused if Putin deems himself a sovereign democrat. It's at least a different concept of sovereign democracy than ours. And mine is quite well thought, I think, because if there is a highest instance in the state, then the next logical question is, which are the rights of this instance in the state? And do you enjoy one of these 10 exemplary fundamental collective rights? That's the distinctive point. When we have achieved strong individual fundamental and human rights, which is a great achievement, and we should improve them. But we did not think so much about collective fundamental rights. This is a different type. These are sovereign rights, and my assumption is that in the Netherlands, the same status quo is reigning as in Germany and Austria, 0. Switzerland, 1. Italy, 1. That's something. That is something that happened coincidentally in Chile. It was not the right of the people to initiate a constitutional convention. It was an allowance. It was a kind of permission of the government. So it's not a right. It's not a right. It happened. I was extremely happy that it happened, and I'm extremely sad about the outcome. I'm almost depressed. I could say a lot of this, but no, I want to spread hope and not depression. And just one tiny example, because I'm at the end of my time, but I have a couple of more minutes to play with you through one example of sovereign democracy. And we can name the process differently. We already heard citizen assemblies, economic convention, constitutional process, or something more complex than just a referendum. Because a referendum is the smallest right. It's just one option of many new elements of a sovereign democracy. But in one of these different possibilities, we, the people, will have one day the power to decide on the limitation of inequality. Same as on the conservation of biodiversity, or on the model of trade that we prefer. It's just an example. There is no example that maybe even on war or peace, but that's a different story for today. So I start with an easy example, and I don't know if I have a flip chart here, near. Then I would use the flip chart, and I would invite 10 people to join me here and to play the sovereign democracy game with me. I would love to play with all of you, but I think you're too many. That's why I would prefer to play with 10. So I'm inviting 10 of you of diverse sexes to come out here and I take this one. So please join me, and it will not hurt, and you will not be blamed. That I can assure. And it will be a joyful memory for your further life. So please be courageous and join me. Okay, there's 2 are already joining. Please come from all walks of life, please join me. Thank you for playing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 5 more. 5 more, please come. It can be 11. And please make a circle and keep standing. It's not on a couch because it requires. Yeah. Thank you for joining. So can you make a half circle that I can see everybody of you? Yeah. You can step a little bit back that I can see the others. That's great. So this is the Democratic Convention of Amsterdam today. You're welcome. Democratic Convention. And yesterday we decided to have a minimum income in the Netherlands. Is there a legal minimum income in the Netherlands? Yeah. How much is it? 11 euros per hour, and is the 1,600 a month. Okay, so we do have a minimum income per month in the Netherlands, 1,600. That's already a rule. And today we decide on a maximum income. And the maximum income is a maximum multiple of the minimum. In the first round, you're invited to make proposals how many times, with how many times the maximum income should be limited in relation to the minimum income. You're totally free. You can say there should be no inequality. You can propose that there should be no limit to inequality, or you can say so many times, or so many times. And every proposal that is made will be voted upon. So you can make many proposals. That's the innovation of the procedure that I'm bringing. Please, proposals. If it's short.
In which city?
Oh, it's all over the country. It's for the whole country. It would be enshrined in the constitution, and in order to not fall over procedural questions now, my request is to just to play with me, because the real convention will take a whole year. So in the real convention, we have a whole year to clarify all procedural questions, and the question is defined by the people. Only today, I'm bringing the question because I had only 5 minutes to play the game with you now. That's why I request you to play with me this game, to accept the question, and only make proposals for the answers. So, anyone has any proposal with how many times the maximum income can be limited in relation? 10 times is the first proposal. Yeah, you can make a different proposal. We will. Okay. 10, 4, 2, 3, 3. So we have 2, 3, 4, 10. 1,000. 250. Okay. We have 2, 3, 4, 10, 250, and 1,000. Any proposal missing? Last call. You're fine? 1. Okay. And last one from the audience? How many? 10. Okay. 10 is already there. 10. 5. Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 250, and 1,000. These are many proposals. Okay, the procedure I have brought with me is called systemic consensus. It's an innovation from 2 mathematicians from the University of Graz. And they were kind of frustrated with our habit to decide with the principle of simple majority. One proposal in the room, and everybody has to be in favor or against. And only this creates a tension which makes us feel uncomfortable. And they were searching for alternatives. And they found hundreds of alternatives, and this is the alternative they think is currently the best available alternative. It has 2 innovative elements. First element is not one proposal is voted upon, but diverse proposals are voted upon. Because every sector of society, from the poorest to the richest, from the environmentalists to startup entrepreneurs, every sector of society can make a proposal, but only proposals make sense that include the whole society, because we will not measure affirmation. If we measured affirmation as we do today, the strongest, the richest, and the most powerful could get their way through, and they could start a campaign for their proposal. This does not work if we measure resistance. And if we measure resistance, we measure the pain and the loss of liberty and this diminishing of the common good, which is happening thanks to a proposal. Because the winning proposal will be that one that creates, that provokes the least resistance in the whole population. And now you're voting. Now you are the sovereign instance. So this is the whole population, but I'm only doing it with the 10 of you because I would be unable to count all the arms that go up. So I will count arms. And you have 3 ways to show your pain with a proposal and the resulting resistance against the proposal. 3 ways. First way is you listen to the proposal. That proposal will, at the end of the process, if it's the winning proposal, be included in the constitution of the country. You listen to the according pain. If there's no pain, you don't have energy to resist against it, and you do nothing. You raise no arm. Second option, you listen to the proposal. You feel the pain. If there's some pain, some itchy, scratchy, strange feeling, you raise one arm because you have a low level of resistance, sufficient to raise one arm. And the third option is you listen to the proposal, you feel it's hurting like hell, and automatically you have so much energy to raise two arms to show your strong resistance against this proposal. Got it? Yeah. Could you maybe make the circle a little bit closer there that I can see it? Yeah, great. So I can see you better. Recommendation: if you close your eyes, you don't see the audience, which tries to influence you. You don't see what your neighbor is doing, and you maybe can feel better if you have your eyes closed. Okay, so we start from the lowest to the highest, and the first proposal is in the same working time. No one should earn more than someone else. Same earning for everybody. Please show your pain width and resistance against no inequality at all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You correct me if I count incorrectly. 15 votes of resistance. Second proposal, the highest income can be up to 2 times the minimum income. Please show your pain width and resistance against maximum factor 2 of inequality. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 votes of resistance. Third proposal, maximum 3 times. Highest income can be up to 3 times the lowest income. Please show your resistance against maximum factor 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next one is 4, maximum 4 times the highest income. Please show your pain width and resistance against factor 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next one is factor 5 is the maximum factor. Please show your pain width and resistance against maximum factor of inequality of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 votes of resistance. Next one is factor 10. Please show your resistance against maximum factor of inequality of 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Did you raise 2 arms or 1 arm? The last one? 2. Then it's 13. Then it's 13. Second last, 250 times is the highest possible income. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. And last proposal, maximum 1,000 times. Only that. Please show your last time. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah, it's no? 18. Okay. 18. Again, 18. Okay. So, which one is the winner? Sorry? 3.5, exactly. So 3 and 4 scored equally. We would have the second round with fine-tuning. We don't take this time. You were a great convention and sovereign instance. Thank you very much for playing. You can go back. I wrap up in my last minute. What you produced is an inverse Gaussian curve. The inverse Gaussian curve is, where is my, here? Here. Is this, or the value of resistance. X is resistance, Y is inequality. And what is here? Here is socialism, with extreme resistance against socialism. And what is here? With even higher resistance against capitalism. And where is the winner? Between 3 and 4, let's say 3.5. So, second last question. Do you think that is representative for the whole world? I'm doing this exercise so far in 25 countries, and in 9 out of 10 cases, the winner is, what is here the winner? 8, yeah, no. Actually, it's 10. It's just another example. And the last question is, what do you think is the status quo? In 9 out of 10 cases, the winner is factor 10. If it was 3.5 or 8, you wouldn't even notice the difference. Huh? The difference you notice to the status quo. It's 360,000 times. Yes, it's one person that earned $5 billion in 1 year, not for taking care of children, of sick people, of the elderly or the dying, but because of taking care of financial assets. And if I one day initiate one referendum in my country, then I would initiate a referendum that people who take care of children, sick people, elderly or dying people, should not be allowed to earn less than people who take care of financial assets. That's it. Thank you very much for your attention.